Welcome to Stella Roos Table, the podcast dedicated to life and everything that comes with it. Come on in and have a seat, grab your beverage of choice, and let's sit down at this table and have a chat. Alrighty, everybody. Before we get into our podcast today, we have another spotlight. As you guys know, I try to give a spotlight on every podcast of different artists and YouTubers and websites and businesses that I've come across. And I want to tell you guys today about this YouTube channel. It's actually a podcast, but you can listen to it on YouTube, and it's called I Don't Make the Rules. If I tell you guys I'm enjoying these videos and listening to these young people. The hosts are Sean Doe and Melanie the Beautiful. I'm loving Melanie the Beautiful because she say everything a woman really want to say and tell you without being hateful, but she really want to tell you what's on her mind. I'm really liking her. And they're bringing up wonderful topics. They even have a podcast talking about the R. Kelly situation and talking about the documentary that they did, and they asked the hard questions. Are you that much different than R. Kelly? What power are you taking back, considering the fact that, you know, you're going to unfriend anybody that still listen to his music? I'm just trying to tell y'all, this podcast is the bomb. You need to go on over there to YouTube and check them out. It's called I Don't Make the Rules. I have listened to every single podcast they have posted up on there. I'm going to attach the links so that you can click on it, but it's not hard to find. You get in the search button and you type I Don't Make the Rules and you'll pull them up. They are not just talking, but they are extremely entertaining. They're tackling hard topics that people don't want to talk about, and I'm just enjoying it. So go ahead and check out I Don't Make the Rules podcast on YouTube. That is our spotlight for today, and they are absolutely awesome. Make sure while you're over there, you go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that they can get some more subscribers, and make sure you share those videos with other people so that they can get more subscribers from that and gets a lot of listeners, because this good content, good content is hard to find. And when you find it, you want to share it. So go ahead and check them out. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, whatever time of day it is where you are. I greet you with a big old Texas smile and a hug from afar. You have tuned in to Stella Roos Table, and I'm so glad you're here, where we talk about life and everything that comes along with it. So let's get into this conversation. As I always say, grab your beverage of choice, whatever that may be. Let's sit back and relax, and let's just have a chat. So today, I thought it would be nice to have my favorite person to be a guest on my podcast. This person is actually my most favorite person in the whole wide world. They mean more to me than anybody else. Would you like to introduce yourself to the people?
Well, since I'm your favorite, I guess I'm your husband. And my name is Michael Brown. Mm-hmm. And I don't normally get on the podcast with her, but hello.
So as you all have heard, this is my husband, Mr. Michael Brown, and he is my favorite person, my most favorite person in the whole wide world. You hear me talk about him a lot on my podcast and how my life changed being married to him, and he is truly the love of my life. So this is a fun podcast for me. I get to share this with him. So today's topic, guys, is getting older, the business of getting older. We've been actually having this conversation, me and him and I, because we are getting older and we have adult children and grandchildren, and we've been really talking about how you handle getting older. So the first thing we want to talk about is the guidelines that come along with getting older.
There is no guidelines.
Exactly. So there are no guidelines to getting older. There's no manual. There's no book. There's no manual natural or spiritual.
No, it really ain't. There is no really no guidelines to getting older, and that's tough. That's tough. That's tough for that's tough for me in many ways. That is tough. That's tough for my children, and I know that I got sense enough to know if I'm going through something, many other folks are going through the same challenges of switching over from into middle class or I'm middle class to senior or whatever, and when you got more years behind you than you got ahead of you, that's a little scary. Your children start to, I believe they start to see that, but it's unacceptable to them. Yeah. I have searched the scriptures, and
can't find one.
I really can't find any in the scriptures. So, and churches don't do a lot of, they don't do any conversating on growing old gracefully. So, what do you do?
We would be considered, you and I would actually be considered middle-aged.
Yes.
Because we are older and we have adult children, but we haven't hit that elderly mark. We can't get the discounts yet. So,
but real close.
But we real close to it.
Real close. I'm just about close enough, real close to getting into 55 and over. So
yeah, we would be considered middle-aged.
And I
And
can get my AARP card.
yeah, yes, you can. You can get the AARP. So, and with us being considered middle-aged, we have noticed for us that the children are having problems with the change that we are older and that we can't do a lot of the things that we used to do.
Not only that we can't do the things that we used to do, but the things that we used to do aren't interesting to us. Back in the day, we were raised in the young era of hip hop. Cool Mo D's and the Run DMC's.
Yeah, right.
All of that. Well, that's cool for back then, but
now it's just not.
It
doesn't.
I don't
it's
rock
not
that
that.
no
It's
more.
not that we don't like the music anymore, because it was good music in our day. It was good music,
Right? Yeah.
But now your tastes have changed. Our tastes have changed,
Right, and
when it comes to different types of music, and we don't do things like. I never was really a clubber or partier. But I like to have a little fun here and there.
But the music, my children get upset because they start making mention of different folks from that era, or whatever, or even the early 2000s, 90s, and honestly, I don't forget all about them. Many parts of that era, the rap groups or whoever it is, and things I used to do. That's how non-important it is, and they get upset and they say, "Man, you ain't that old," Well, yeah, I am getting older,
Right.
And that's not something I like to do. I like my jazz. I like my gospel. I'm cool with that, A lot of this new music out there,
and then a lot of the new R&B, honestly, and there's no slight to any of the young people, okay?
No.
But like, not a lot of the new R&B music and stuff like that, we don't get it.
I don't relate to
We
it.
don't, we don't,
You know.
because the music nowadays seems to not really make sense to us. We, like, for instance, I
We
love.
grew up on the funk.
Right,
You had
exactly.
to have the beat was more important than the sound.
Right.
You recognize and identify with the artist by their beat first.
Right. Like, for instance, I love Bruno Mars.
Right.
I love him because his music makes sense to me.
Right. He tried to bring it in for all ages and all eras and everything, and that's cool. That's why he's so popular. But a lot of people, like a lot of these young artists, they're lyrically talented, but their music and their lyrics
don't go together.
They don't. Yeah,
It don't really say nothing. Like, like when they remember that song that came out when the kids was teenagers. It was something about chicken noodle soup with a soda on the side.
Yeah.
That was the stupidest song in the world to me.
They
was jamming this song.
And the dancers nowadays that they do, I mean, that's cool. Y'all young, do your thing, but y'all ain't got no rhythm. I mean, y'all ain't got no swag. You ain't got no swerve. You ain't smooth. So, I mean, that don't make sense. And that's a reality dose.
And that's just the reality.
That is like, hey,
your taste change, the way you think about things change, the way you see things change when you get a little older, and your children, especially when they're adults like ours are, they start to have a problem with it because they struggle with it because I used to remember when you used to
be cool.
You used to be cool. You used to have rap music banging. Okay, but I'm different. I'm older. I've outgrown that and grown into something else. Something
now you
different.
Want to preach to me. All you want to do is just preach. No,
I just don't
preaching
want
to you.
Right.
We're trying to keep you from falling in some pit holes and some traps that I don't want through.
And then the thing is, like for me, I tell the children, I just don't want you to make the same mistakes I did. I'm trying to keep you from having to go through the same heartbreaks I had to go through. Like for me now with the daughters, they get tickled at me because I'm older. They find me so funny, it's ridiculous. I said something to one of them a couple weeks ago. I said, girl, I done learned how to use them little pictures in my phone
and
when
I still ain't
when I send a message. And she just died laughing and told everybody in her office they're called emojis, Mom. And told everybody, my mama called the emojis little pictures, y'all. And now I have to be careful when I'm on the phone with her because she gets so tickled at the fact that I'm getting older and can't understand stuff or whatever. She puts me on speaker so people can hear me say something. And then next thing I know, I got a room full of folks laughing.
And the boys just think I'm just old fogey and outdated and I do speak my mind. I ain't gonna lie. One of the things I like about getting older, I just don't really give a flip.
You can say what you
want
to say.
Say what I'm going to say.
Because look, I done earned the right to say it. And like Big Mama used to say, my grandmother, who was Stella Ruth, she used to say all the time, I'm 80 years old. I have earned the right to say whatever
when
the
you get
heck
over 50,
I
man.
want.
Hey, look, certain things but something, the truth of the matter is, a lot of things we say or I say, I was raised on, that way of conversing with each other. It wasn't a bad thing or anything like that. But this era right here, they can't take much of nothing.
They can't take it.
You got to be gentle with them, and
they can't take. See, because the thing is that we all understand being politically correct and being courteous to people and being understanding. Because I'm probably one of the most courteous people you'll meet because I'm gonna say what I need to say, but I'm gonna try my best not to hurt your feelings if I can.
And I'm the opposite.
But when we were growing up, they didn't really care how they said it to you, and then they tell you suck it up and get on and stop tripping about it. My mama's favorite thing to say to me was suck it up, buttercup, you move on. But now and of course, before folks think that we crazy, there's always a better way and a different way to deal with a situation. But the way we were raised versus how we raised our children versus the way the children are being raised now, it's a little unnerving for you as you're getting older because you see the change and you don't really know how to adapt to the new way of things.
No, the fact of the matter is, at this age in my life, I'm comfortable with me.
Right.
I'm not going to do a great amount of change that makes me uncomfortable.
Right.
I mean, that's something I'm just not too apt to do. I mean, honestly, it's just, and that's another thing that when you getting older, the children want you to adapt and change to their ways, and they feel like it's changing to society ways and this, that, and the other. And I'm not saying all change is or change is bad, But there, when you get older, it's only so far you really gonna go,
Right.
in your change.
Right. And here's the thing.
You have to change if you. I mean, of course, you have to adjust with corporate world, but in your home life, that's a different situation.
Right. And here's the thing is, of course, everybody can change and things grow and things, evolve and society changes. But is your way really bad versus their way? If your way of doing it is different, it's just different. It doesn't make everybody wrong. It just means I have a different way of seeing it. I have a different way of doing it. If you want to do it your way, that's your business. But this is the way I see it.
And to be truthful with your perception that I see, that I perceive is this. The way my mother raised me in many ways, I didn't see it inside of a jail. The way that I raised my children, they didn't see the inside of a jail. They didn't go hungry. They wasn't homeless or whatever the situation is. Mm-hmm. There's always room for improvement as they go along in their journey. Mm-hmm. But what they have learned from me isn't bad, and it's definitely not bad for them.
Exactly.
So why do you want to try to abandon it and reinvent the wheel to some strange and new stuff?
Right.
That, I guess, is part of getting older, where it makes no sense to me.
It makes no sense to you because it worked for you. And somebody said this to us a few days ago. There's always a better way of raising your children. You can do things differently, and that's true. You can do things differently. But again, was my way really that bad? You didn't go hungry. You didn't go without a place to live. You didn't go. You didn't get beat up. We wasn't in jail for abusing you. We might have been hard on you, but we weren't abusing you,
right.
And was I perfect? No. Did I make mistakes?
Absolutely,
yes.
we did.
But that doesn't mean that everything that I did was
should
wrong.
be a wash.
Right, because you turned out pretty good as far as I'm concerned.
That's right. Yeah.
And so with getting older, it gets harder sometimes when you see things change so much
and so drastically. One of the things that's also is, and I'm not going to go into great detail on it, but it appears to me that the views and ways of society has done a tremendous swing to the left in a lot of things, and I'm not going to go any farther than that, but and it's moved really swiftly.
Right.
And that's hard for me in adjusting to getting older.
Right. That's even like for our parents and our grandparents, when we came into for instance, my grandmother, when we came into the 70s and the 80s, the way we started doing things was hard for her. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because she was like, what is going on with these kids? Because she grew up, she raised her children in the 60s and the beginning of the 70s. And by the time I came along and we in the 70s and the 80s, she's like, what? She's like, what is happening? Why are you, and it's just, even like me and my aunt had a conversation because she used to talk about how, when we were kids, you went to your grandmother's house almost every weekend. We went to school over by our house. We was at her house every day. And she wanted to switch up and take her boys home and go to school by her house. And it was a great big fight because, back then the grandmothers, took care of you after school, this, that, and the other. She had an issue with my aunt wanting to take her own kids home. And you would think that's not really a big deal.
Right.
But to them, it's like, this the way we did y'all. This the way we did your children. I don't understand why you want to change. You see what I'm saying? So
right.
In getting older, it just kind of, it makes it harder because like we said, there is no manual to learning how to cope with getting older.
Right.
There's no guidelines. Nobody gives you a book and say, okay, now you're getting older. When you get to this age, you're going to have these things happen. And then they can tell you what's going to happen to you medically. Mm-hmm. But emotionally and spiritually, nobody can tell you how you're going to cope with this. So it's a battle because now, not only are you getting older and not understanding some of the things that are happening in the world that's so different from the way things were as you were coming up, but now you got to have these hard conversations with your children, that they don't want to have. You got to talk to them about life insurance policies. You got to talk to them about my 401k.
And we still don't want to hear it.
They don't want to hear it. You got to talk to them about things like, if something happens to me, this is what I want you to do. If I get sick and can't take care of myself, put me in a home because I don't want that burden on you. They don't want to have these conversations with you because they're hard conversations to have. I had a conversation with my mom, and that's a hard conversation, but I had to have it because I'm her only child. Right. So I needed to know what her wishes were. I needed to know if she dies, where is her life insurance policy at? Who's the beneficiary? What do you want me to do with your things? These are things we had to have a conversation about. That's a hard conversation because you don't want to think about your parents passing on. No. And I personally think that for our children, that's the icing on the cake, so to speak. That's the one big hit. Is like, why are they having these conversations with us? Because they don't want to think about the possibility that we're not going to be here anymore. Because it's starting to hit them really hard that, wait a minute, they are getting older. They probably won't be around forever. And so that's me. I think that's why they're having, I think that's why they're having such a hard time with us getting old. That's why they fuss about us not listening to rap music.
I mean, it's not easy for me to have to have that conversation,
right? Because
it's hard, also for me to face the reality that, wow, just yesterday, I was young and now I'm old. Right. That is a tough reality.
Right.
And it's even tougher to even imagine that I have to now look at retirement.
Right. Right. Because we're close. We're close.
It's tough. Yeah. Like I said earlier, it's even tough. It's tough. Life is tough.
Life is tough,
and reality is tough, and it's very tough to grasp because it seemed like yesterday.
Right.
It seemed like yesterday, and but it isn't. And when you're getting older, one of the tough things is it's never enough time.
Right.
Right. You didn't accomplish what you wanted to do, and you haven't, the dreams and goals that you want to attempt. That it's not, they have to be adjusted, because because of age and health issues and this, that, and the other, get in the way with of things, and
right.
It's frustrating. I was just out there today playing with my oldest grandson, Devin, and playing basketball with him, and ran out of breath.
and
had to come in the house.
Had to come in the house. It was enough. It was enough. So that's too much now.
That's
too much.
That's time. Well, I'll get you later. I'm gonna beat you. We're gonna continue this game on later. I just gotta go get some air.
Yeah. But like for instance, it's hard to have for me with the children. It's hard for them to know that I'm not as healthy as I used to be.
Right.
It's hard for them to know that I do have high blood pressure and high cholesterol. It's hard for them to know that I suffer from fibromyalgia and stuff like that. And when they call me and I'm feeling a little under the weather, they are just freaking out. Mama, you okay? You okay? You okay? And I'm like, I ain't dead. I'm just, feeling a little, I'm not as young as I used to be. My body doesn't bounce back like it used to, and it's hard for them to understand. And yes, before y'all get started on this, we already know if we was fit and had lost weight, and you can be fit, but at the end of the day,
y'all died too. Healthy as an ox and dead tomorrow.
No, but at the end of the day, 45 is 45,
Yep.
47 is 47, 50 is 50, and 55 is 55.
I've seen a whole
All day
lot of
long.
perfectly good, healthy people with a clean bill of health from the doctor just 2 hours ago fall dead. So I'm talking that right there. I'm glad to be alive no matter what shape I'm in. I'm happy.
That's what I said. So at the end of the day, when you're getting older, you're getting older. Your body at 50 does not bounce back like your body at 25. It just doesn't. And that's a hard pill for the kids to swallow. Because when we get sick, we get sick. Like it used to be, I get a cold.
You bounce back.
Yeah, I get a cold 2-3 days. I'm good. I can go to work and everything. I get a cold now. It turns into
2-3 months.
Turns into a flu, then turns into a bronchitis. Then
Turns into you in the hospital on the ventilator.
well, I don't know about on the ventilator, but it can get bad.
I done been there.
Yeah, I know you done been there.
So I know.
But so I mean, it's like I said, it's getting older. It's hard getting old because don't nobody tell you how to deal with this. Don't nobody tell you how to have these conversations with your children. Don't nobody tell you how to prepare for getting old. They don't tell you. Well, they do. They started now. Let me rephrase because they've started now talking to people about financial independence. You know, they've already started that telling you how to save and invest this, that, and the other. But when we were coming up, they didn't tell you how important 401k was.
No.
They didn't tell you how important it was to invest. They say save some money. Your grandmama say put some money under the mattress or in the cookie jar. But they didn't tell you how important it was to invest and build yourself a portfolio so that when you get to that age of retirement, you can have something to live off of. See, because by the time we get retired, it may not be no Social Security for us to get as hard as we've been working all these years.
But I think, and I'm gonna be honest with you, and, you know, just even prior to me and Kim meeting and marrying, I was divorced, and that was when I really started doing some deep searching and thinking, and because of the age that I was when I got divorced from my first wife and everything, looking at it, that they call men the what they call it when you're 40 and over, the they call women, they say, you know, we say they're going through that mid-season menopause.
Oh, you going through the midlife crisis.
And they call men going through the midlife crisis. And these are true statements, okay? Yeah. Because that is a major shift.
Right.
And sometimes it's unnoticeable for the person that's going through it. They don't know what's going on. All of a sudden they just kind of shift, and crazy things just happen. And you don't know how to handle it. You don't and like I said, now I'm not saying that would have saved my marriage, but I think it could have saved many of marriages for people who regret it later on and don't know how to get back. But I think that, you know, that this is the reason why we're discussing it now, because that's the era where we really do, well, even prior to that era, even in the 30s, when the people in their 30s, that really needs to be a subject or teaching of some kind that needs to be formulated, where they can start to teach them about the midlife crisis, about the menopause, and how to gracefully go through it, particularly when you're a married couple. Right. Because, man, that's rough.
Right. It's rough because when you're married and you got one that's in the middle of menopause and then the other that's in the middle of a midlife crisis, and y'all are both trying to work together, but you got your thing, he got his thing, and those emotions are high, and
it's falling apart at the seams,
and you trying to figure out what the heck to do.
And before you know it, you at the judge.
Right. And then you got to have someone, you got to have some kind of structure, something that says, hey, we're going to get through this together. Which brings me to my
Alrighty, darlings, you've been listening to part 1 of the business of growing
old. I'm sorry, the business of getting old. And we're going to have a part 2 for you. So thank you so very much for stopping by and taking a listen to Stella Ruth's Table. And as I always say, live life, laugh often, and eat some good food while you're doing it. And we will be back with part 2 soon.